All right. Welcome to Rich Conversations. This is going to be another fantastic episode. We love just exploring the world, our curiosity, and today we're going to talk more about Miami. Now, this is exciting. We have Joshua Murillo, right?
There you go. There we go.
On the show, and we're gonna talk about Miami and a whole bunch of other stuff. Why don't you describe how we met?
So, very interesting actually. So we were at this local bar in Wynwood called the Sylvester. So I'm out there with just a group of my friends, and we're just enjoying the bar and everything it has to offer. And as I'm turning my head to go look for one of my friends who is entering the bar, I notice Rich here. He's sitting down, and he just has his notebook out, and he's just taking just various notes. So I was curious, and my friend even asked me, he's like, hey, like he asked me, he's like, hey, do you see that dude? It's like kind of a weird thing to do in a bar. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go up to him and ask him. So eventually I just came up to him and I asked him, like, hey, like mind me asking what you were doing? And then he explained to me he's just taking notes and putting himself in a different situation than what he's used to. And I kind of really liked it. It just, like I mentioned earlier to you, kind of really like the idea of just being in like a situation you're not normally comfortable with, and like just pondering on just the things around you and things that have to do with yourself, because it kind of just opens up like your thoughts to just a farther reach than what you're used to. So we exchanged the info, and here I am. Thank you for having me so far.
Well, thanks for coming on. Yeah, that was a great night. The Sylvester, so I went to Miami. This is all in Miami, and which was about I want to say like a month ago now. And I had went last year, and we stayed in like the design district. I was with two other friends, and the Sylvester is a place we went to, and we just really enjoyed it. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back there. And then they got great music, just great vibes and people. So yeah, I took out my notebook, and I was just like, I was traveling by myself, so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna open up this notebook, see what happens.
Yeah.
And sure enough, here we are. What's that?
Do you normally just travel around by yourself like that?
For the most part, like, yeah, let's see, in February, I went to New York by myself. Went to New York by myself in November. I don't have trouble traveling by myself, because a lot of times, like, my schedule is very flexible. So I kind of have the personality where I'm just like, yo, I'm just going to go, and I'm going to have a great time. It doesn't matter if people are with me or not with me. It's too much logistics to try to coordinate with everybody else. And it's just like, yo, I'm going to go. See ya. I just do my own thing. And
I'm having that dilemma currently. Just all my friends, we just want to travel somewhere, but realize like trying to make everyone happy and fit everyone into it is just kind of a struggle. So we might have to take up your methods on that. Just go at it by myself.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I have a very flexible schedule. I mean, just super flexible. And now, like, I have friends in places all over. So, like especially New York. Like when I go to New York, I always have a place to stay and people to hang out with. So just like going by myself isn't a big deal, because I'm meeting up with all my like New York friends too. Same thing, Denver and Miami. And this is part of the podcast too, strategically. I don't know if I've communicated this, but like, it's all about meeting people. So then you start meeting people all around the world. And sure enough, when you travel to these places, hey, now you have someone to talk to or reach out to, or so you're not experiencing the city and these areas alone. So
okay, I can part of it. So now, like, for example, you come back down to Miami, and then it'd be easier now for us to just go get like a genuine lunch.
Yeah. So, yeah. I can be like, hey, Joshua lives here. Let's hang out, I
like that. That is shit. Because I like I'm very big on meeting people. And like I would like to consider myself like a social butterfly. Like I'm definitely the one in my group who just likes to branch out, or if like
Yeah.
get invited to different places where we don't necessarily know anyone, I'll just make an effort to at least like introduce myself and talk to someone. Just you never know how much in common you can have with someone if you don't take that first initiative to at least to talk to them, or just a simple hello, or like what do you do for a living, and so forth. So
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. And I feel like as people grow older, they're less inclined to want to meet new people or make new friends. What are your thoughts on, say, like social media too, where it's like it's so easy to be in your phone and to not make that effort to go talk to somebody? Do you feel like that what you just said, right, to branch out and meet people, do you feel like that's a less common thing even more now with social media?
So I would think, like, let's say in a physical standpoint view, it definitely can hinder you just from making those sort of like personal interactions. I'm bigger on personal interactions instead of just like virtual, where it's just like I text or Zoom call and so forth. I believe like reading someone's body language and the way their tone is conveyed towards you in a more face to face means a lot more than through a text or through video. Even though like with Zoom, it gives the capability of just branching out and connecting with individuals probably that we knew and hadn't seen in a while, or just aren't able to see consistently.
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely more meaningful to just make the effort to go see someone in person, or just meet him in person and just talk to them and figure out more so about who they actually are, instead of just this whole camera to camera thing. Because at any given moment, I could pause this, and or I could shut my screen off, and that kind of isn't a conversation at that point. That's just a phone call, essentially. I've always been big into just seeing people's expressions and like feeling like more so like getting engaged in their emotions, and just I like to get the feel of their body language too, because that's a big thing. That's how I was taught to communicate to people. Just super into it, super just give everyone your attention, and at least give them the attention that they're trying to receive from you as well. Social
Yeah.
media, social media has been good, especially obviously like it's definitely increased now with after all of us going through quarantine.
Mhm.
It's definitely become king in a sense where most people just rely to it now, and then those who have lost like their social interaction, like their ability to socially interact with others, because after you go 2 years of not interacting with someone, you kind of just get used to the whole being behind a screen or scrolling and tech and like commenting and so forth. So
Yeah.
I think it's crucial to bring that back, because it just brings this better connection in the individual. You're able to just understand people better than just liking or commenting on a post or agreeing with it or
Yeah.
sharing. So it's kind of the way I
Yeah.
see
I like that. Nonverbal communication is very underrated.
it.
It
And
very is.
I've recently developed that more too. Just I've didn't realize that just the manner in which like you face someone, or like if you're I learned a big thing from one of my really good friends. He taught me that just when you talk to someone, it's appropriate to like shoulders face forward. And he's seen it. He showed me an example. Like we were at a local bar, and he showed me. It's like, hey, look at these two people who are talking. You can tell the individual is not interested, because she has her shoulders facing elsewhere, or her knees
Yeah.
facing away. It's small things like that that I just recently now start to look at, which before it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't unaware, but just now more so I'm just more focused on, because it's just I want someone when I'm speaking to them be comfortable, and then I want them to think I'm comfortable speaking with them. So you are right, nonverbal communication is huge, and that's
Yeah.
not
It
something
is.
you can get from behind a screen. Like it's
Yeah. Yeah. And eye contact with
mhm.
screens too. Is it like, are we making eye contact,
Yeah, that's
or are it's like this? I was listening to something the other day about like like what direct eye contact does and that like connection. But then it's like there's this third party with the screens and everything that like it kind of shields that in a way.
Well, I also think I agree with that. I also think it's just, you got to think about it this. If you look at the position of your camera, it's very hard. It's just supposed to get like the overall view of like just the broad spectrum of your vision.
Yeah.
But just like if, I don't know if you work from home or if you do like just some sort of work from anything via like your laptop, it's very hard to sometimes concentrate because along with the Zoom meeting, you can also have many other pages open up at the same time. So are you really giving someone direct eye contact when you're talking to them here? Like it's kind of a half. And like you said, the third party, it just still creates this other barrier where even as you're like trying to look at this individual, whoever you may be speaking to, it doesn't feel super genuine at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Again, it kind of goes back to that face-to-face interaction. You can feel the tension between individuals, whether it's good tension or bad tension. It's just the interaction that makes the conversation as a whole a lot better. This face-to-face, this camera thing that we do, it kind of like negates that. So it ends up just being another recording of each other. We're just kind of like looking at each other.
Not to extend this subject too much more, but I think what I'm curious too is like we now know that remote capability is like it's in the deck, or it's like it's always on the table. It's always possible now. And so there's going to be a big push to enhance this experience, the same things that we were just talking about. So like technology will get better and better around these things that we're saying, where eventually it may be like holograms of people, or like 3-dimensional, or like just the technology around it. Now that we know remote is possible and everybody can do it, like the technology is just going to increase because there'll be a higher demand for that connection. So
kind of have you used the Quest, like a Quest 2, or like
I haven't used it yet, but yeah, that's certainly where I'm thinking about, is like augmented reality, virtual reality type of thing. Yeah.
So so with a Quest and the metaverse and like you said, augmented reality, that's essentially where it is, because now it's just convenience at this point. Like people rather stay at home in the comfort of home, but then any interactions that they're seeking or just any sort of entertainment that they may be looking for, it's just easier it's eventually going to be easier to just put it on. Kind of like you ever seen the movie Ready Player One?
No, but I keep hearing about it.
So I'll keep it short. So essentially, like when Zuckerberg came out with the idea of like the metaverse and then using augmented reality, a lot of individuals referred back to this movie called Ready Player One, and it's said basically it's this Earth in the future where just now everyone basically lives their lives, and everything about their lives is through this thing called the Oasis, which people refer to it, like people compare it to the metaverse, which is just this augmented reality where you put on this headset and you can interact with anyone, and everyone can be this different character, and live this different persona than who they are. And actually,
to become an avatar of themselves.
Yeah, you basically you create your own avatar. So with what you mentioned earlier, eventually that's like more an entertainment point of view in which it'll go up to.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like it's just the idea of being.
But that technology can be applied or applicable to meetings and stuff like this too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like the technology can be applied across the board. Yeah.
Imagine like you and I just hop on, and it's like essentially like I'm giving you a real handshake. Like eventually it'll be that, and I'm pretty excited for that, just because like you said, you travel around a lot. Imagine just at any given point, just being able to just sit down with your friends, or just actually just getting now that same feel that I like in the personal interaction, but somehow it's been just become far more advanced with technology that now you get that same experience. So
Yeah. We'll have to, we might have to circle back to this, but yeah, I think it's in our lifetimes, even in this decade, this upcoming decade, we're going to see so much technological change.
I agree.
It's interesting.
100%.
Getting back though, why don't you introduce yourself real quick? And I want to talk about Miami with you.
Okay. Yeah. So like Rich mentioned, my name is Joshua Murillo. I'm 24 years old. I was born and raised here in Miami. The only time I ever really left was from school, but I'm happy to be back. I knew I always wanted to come back. This is just my city. And then leaving when I was 18 and coming back when I was 23, it was just kind of way more excited to experience just new things, because I know in those 5 years, the city has developed a lot. I lived in a part of Miami called Hialeah. My parents moved out here when I was around 2004. Before then, I lived closer to another city more south called Flagler. It's right by Flagler Street. So more, have you ever heard the term Calle Ocho?
Yeah.
So
Little Havana, right?
Huh?
Little Havana area.
Yeah. So it's Calle Ocho, very close there. So I lived there when my parents had their first house there. Moved to Hialeah in 2004, and I've been here since. Went to high school here, local high school called Matto Academy, and left for school. Always knew I wanted to leave for school just to get that different experience. But came back and it's been well. I work over now at University of Miami. I've been there it's May, so I've been there about 10 months now, and it's been swell. Do a lot of organ procurements, which for most people who don't know what procurement means, it's just I am the individual who helps retrieve organs that are crucial for recipients who are on the wait list for whether it's a kidney, liver, heart, pancreas, intestine. Really like it. I do want to do surgery eventually, so it really is good surgical experience just to be in the OR and assist the surgeons as they're procuring the organs out of the individuals who unfortunately passed away. But on the right side, like I sometimes get to tag along and see just which recipients are receiving these organs, and I just very big fan of it. Love it so far.
Wow. So. Yeah, because you studied physiology, kinesiology at University of Florida.
So
I'm not great at pronouncing words.
No, so my major is called APK, but it's anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology.
Okay.
So it's essentially I was just essentially just the study of the body and how the body functions and how it moves. And I really I didn't approach this major until maybe my second year in college. I was a biology major. I was on a pre-med track. And then I switched my sophomore year. I switched over to APK, and I became a pre-PA individual. The reason why was more so there's nothing against bio majors, just I didn't like the idea of having to study most of my electives just being plant-based or like animal-based, which necessarily just in my thoughts just didn't fit the idea of like, oh, if I want to treat individuals, I think it's to have a better understanding of how the body works.
Yeah.
So, which is why I moved over to APK, and then I love it. Like I see it applied in everywhere. Just I have friends who hit me up about certain places that may hurt, or like if they're trying to get like physically in shape. Like that's also the part of my major that they teach us, because you could do a fitness specialization or an exercise specialization. So I went the exercise route. So just I feel like there's just many more real world applications to this major. So we're here.
Yeah, because it's the human body, and people are existing in human bodies right now, and yeah, there's a lot to deal with that. Yeah, that is cool. So you lived in Miami your whole life. What would you say the vibe of Miami is?
So if you live here, you'll understand that culture and like just the creativity of the city is huge. It's they talk about the United States being like a giant like melting pot, but I would say Miami is a melting pot just amongst like a lot of Latin culture and Italian culture, and depending on how far north you go. Because if you just reside in deep Miami, then you're just talking about just a lot of, it's a melting pot, but in regards of just a lot of different Latin countries. So you're talking about, for example, I'm from Honduras. It's in Central America. So in my being someone that was born in not born raised in Hialeah, Hialeah is predominantly Cuban. So you're talking about this kid from Honduras who goes to this school full of predominantly Cubans. So you start mixing everything you know and understand with what they know.
Yeah.
And if you go even more to another city called Doral, you're talking about Venezuelans. The nickname is Dorazuela. So now you have a whole other culture. Then you have Little Haiti, which is actually Wynwood, which is around where we met. So the Haitians. And you go down Little Havana. Little Havana also mixes with Little DR. So I like, it's just the beauty in it. Just at anywhere you go, you're gonna just hear like an array of accents, different forms of slangs that where I could say something and it'll mean like either something completely offensive in another culture, or it just won't make sense to them.
Yeah,
per se. And the creativity portion of that just comes from that culture. Just you've seen like you said earlier, you've stayed in the design district. The design district used to be just an extension of Wynwood before it completely got renovated. And if you've been in Wynwood during the day, you get to see all these beautiful arts. And it's not only in Wynwood. If you go to like Havana, Calle Ocho,
it's all over the city. There's like art and murals and bright colors everywhere.
Yeah, that's the beauty. Like just people bring, and those are all done by different artists from just different backgrounds. So that's beautiful too. And there's even, I believe, if you go a little south by Kendall, there's like a sculpture work where people do a lot of welding and these magnificent sculptures as well. And it doesn't even have to be just art in the sense of just building or painting something. You can go to the gardens, the botanical gardens, where people like lay out their art with plants and just capture it with photography and so forth. But it's just a very big culture city. That's what I've always liked. Like you will never meet someone of the same background per se, and you'll always have something new to learn from someone.
Yeah, it's what you describe, what I have thought of it in my head. Is this accurate at all? It seems like it acts as the capital of the Caribbean in a way, where it's kind of like the New York City of the whole Caribbean and cultures around like Latin.
So normally, so let's say the Caribbean. So when individuals migrate from the Caribbean, so you're talking about like DR, Cuba, Puerto Rico, normally the two, like, I don't want to say easiest place to migrate to, but more so just, I want to say, I guess I could say easiest just because family, they may already have family there, is either New York, and that's where you see a lot of like the Puerto Ricans and like a lot of Dominicans.
Dominicans in New York for sure. I noticed that.
Big up there. But in Miami, you gotta remember, for Cuba and Haiti and the Caribbean in general, Miami from the tip to the Caribbean is only about 90 miles.
Yeah.
So that's where you get this. And back in the day when you had the wet foot, dry foot enacted, it was just a means of salvation from like a political. A lot of them were political refugees.
Yeah.
Coming here. So a lot of individuals took that chance and they decided to build a life here. When you have individuals like for me who come from Central America or South America, it's Miami is just still seen like as safe grounds because it's basically coming to a whole different country, trying to build a whole new life. But you want to be surrounded by people that will necessarily make you feel welcome. Sorry. But it is. I would agree with that. It's just kind of like most people call South Florida like Northern Cuba. I've heard a lot of my Cuban friends say that. It's just Northern Cuba.
There's a big Cuban culture there, that's for sure.
It definitely is. It definitely Cuban culture is the predominant one here for sure. There's a lot of influence on the city, which isn't bad. Like I said, like I grew up in Hialeah, so I've learned to appreciate the culture a lot. It's different than
Yeah.
mine,
Yeah.
but the whole point is just it's better to it's always great to appreciate something that you're not used to. So that's why it's just been big.
Yeah. Something I notice about, besides the weather, I'm sure helps lift everybody's moods all the time. Coming from, it's like 60 and chilly in Chicago right now.
Okay.
But
I wouldn't
there's
say
a spirit to the city that I notice. And it's like cool to be a part of and to see when I was down there.
Yeah. So obviously, like individual, like our weather is great. As much as sometimes I can complain about it being too hot, because there's days here you walk out and it's just like you have to like rip your shirt off from your skin just because the humidity, you're very like it's very glued on. But it's nice to walk outside. And I always use the reference of Toy Story skies. You've seen the movie, I'm assuming, right? Toy Story.
Toy Story, yeah.
So you know how on the walls it's just blue with just nice clouds out. So I always I always reference that because whenever you walk out, like 99% of the time, you're just gonna have this nice blue sky with either no clouds or clouds outside, and it just makes the day overall. It makes you want to have like a productive day. It makes you want to just go out there and just like I don't want to stay inside. It's a beautiful day. Let's just go out and do something. Whether it's I may just drive to the local Panera or Starbucks and decide to study outside, or just to the local park and go for a walk, whatever it may be. You are right. The spirit is just overall lifted. It's just the whole idea of staying inside at that point is just like it just sucks. Like you would be doing yourself a favor by going out at that point.
So this is like an interesting dynamic because Chicago, we have like maybe 3 months of like tremendous weather, and it's the most magical time in the city, the summer of Chicago. And like everything is outside. We have the lake here. We have this lakefront path that's just all parks the entire length of the city. And everybody is just like all outside. And there's probably this appreciation of it. What we often wonder is like with all the pent up energy throughout, the fall, we enjoy the seasons here, but like in the winter, especially, like, how do you, for me, I think it helps creativity to like be stuck inside and you're like forced to do this stuff. And I wonder, people that live in the warm weather, like Los Angeles or Miami, how do you not be outside every day and like not work,
Like, how do
Does
you
that make sense?
Are you saying like, how do I just go out and then just, eventually, are you saying more so like, so you were saying like when you stay stuck inside, you don't necessarily want to do it? I'm sorry, I got kind of confused in that. So you're more so saying when you
so like, how do you, if the weather is great most of the time, how does it work with creativity? Like, do you think it helps or hinders creativity if you always want to be outside and like doing stuff outside?
So I think it definitely helps it, because like you said, like if I always want to be outside and I always want to be so when I say I want to be outside, in a sense, like I just want to be out and about and like doing something, being productive. Because you want to take advantage of the day. Necessarily, at least for me, let's say like when it drops down, like when winter comes around, November, and we get like our brisk like 1 week of like it being chilly, or it falls below the 70s. Because if you live in Miami and it falls below, once it hits that like 68, 69 degree mark, that's it. Like fully bundle up, just want to stay inside. It's absurd. Like you'll see it. Like people will come out with like their fur coats or like the big puffer jackets. Like people just really do not know how to act like once they go there. So that causes people to stay. But if, at least for me, if I know it's a great day outside and the weather is warm, once it makes my productivity just completely increase. I want to go out there, do something either better myself. And when I want to better myself, my thoughts get going. So that just allows me to think of all these different things that I want to do or wish to do or like plan to do. So I guess it just, to answer your question, it definitely boosts it. It allows people just to now have this, I want to say comfortable environment, but more so just like this good atmosphere where they can just think beyond from what the capability of the comfort of their home.
Okay. So this is like a very basic question. I was like, when I was down there, I was like asking people what their idea of vacation is, because like here more north, whenever we think of vacation, we think palm trees and warm weather. Mm-hmm. But you're already there. So like, how do you choose where to vacation? Like what factors and variables go into your decisions?
Okay.
If weather is completely out of it.
If weather is completely out of it, I would say on a personal standpoint of view, I'm very big into just seeing how like the life is somewhere else. So for example, I've never been to New York or I've never been to Boston. And I was like, those are two places I'm set on like trying to go within this year, just because it's definitely more rich in history per se. Yeah. Or in New York, it's just some place that people talk about a lot. Like it's just like to see all those amazing high rises. And even though we have high rises here, just I don't think these really much compare to the ones up north. So go there, maybe try some genuine, either some New York style pizza or some deep dish from Chicago, or go see Fenway at Boston. Like I think it's just at that point, like we do live, and essentially the phrase is like we live where you vacation, but like going to the beach when we're capable of going to the beach whenever we want. Don't necessarily want to go somewhere tropical, at least, because at any given point I could after this podcast, after this, I could just walk out of my house and drive the 10 minutes to the beach that it takes. Yeah. So I think at least for me, it's just how Northerners come down to experience like the warm weather. Yeah. As much as I mentioned earlier, like I'm not a fan of the cold, it is still nice to get the sight of potentially seeing snow or going skiing and so that it's something completely different from us. And so and there's people who on the other hand just won't ever really leave Florida. Instead, they'll vacation in different parts of Florida. Okay. Because once you leave like that, like Orlando-ish area, Florida becomes completely different. Like
I hear Florida. I mean, there's all different types of people and everything in Florida.
So if you think of Florida, like if you have this tiny, like this square at the bottom, which consists of Fort Lauderdale, like Hollywood, like Miami, and then like Homestead, that's mostly that's where like you get the bigger population of Florida. But then like you go west to like the Naples and Tampa area on the other side of the Everglades, then that's not as big as Miami and so forth, but it's just already different. There's the beaches there I've heard are a lot better on the West Coast than they are over here on the East Coast. And when I heard that, I decided to go to the places like Clearwater. And so then those who decide to stay in Florida now take the opportunity to vacation elsewhere in Florida. Like you can go up north to St. Augustine. And St. Augustine is beautiful, super historic, like old buildings.
Yeah, it's like definitely historic.
I don't know if I'm correct to say it's like the first colony established here in Florida.
Yeah, you're right. It's got like a fort or something there, right?
Yeah, it has a fort, literally.
Yeah, I want to see that.
You go there, and it's just rich in history. Like you can find out find like different buildings, and like the architecture of the building is amazing. Just very old school, which is also goes back to why I want to go to Boston. I like the structure of the building. I like things like that. I like to see just different, just a different side than what I'm seeing from here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but then like I said, then you have the Floridians who just vacation elsewhere. Like if you're from Miami, I'm gonna go vacation in Anna Maria, which is on the West Coast. So it's an island, beautiful island. There's people who go to Orlando. Obviously, you have Disney and Universal and things like that. Tampa. Tampa's nice because the Everglades are very near it. You also have Busch Gardens. You can go to I was going to school at Gainesville. We have springs which are basically, it's super clear water. It's the temperature is the same year round. So temperatures like a lower 71, 72 degrees. And whether it's summer, winter, fall, it's that same temperature year round. So it's actually nice to go in the winter time because the water will be colder. I mean, water will be warmer than the outside air. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Tampa, real quick? Like, how would you describe Tampa?
Mini Miami. Like,
Mini Miami.
I like mini Miami. Tampa right now basically has a lot. Expense wise, definitely has more to offer than Miami. It's a little cheaper than Miami. It's more developing. Like, it's in that stage of developing to become essentially just like Miami. It's a very beautiful city. I've been out there twice. I went for a Lightning game when I visited my brother, and I was just passing through. Very nice. Like I said, it's just more developed. It's just like if you were to cut like downtown Miami in half, it'd be that, and then on the outskirts, it's just still very nice, right? Nice suburban homes and so forth. But I like it. I think it's definitely like it's become a lot more popular now, especially with just their sports teams doing good and the whole Tom Brady dynamic happening out there.
Oh yeah.
He definitely has brought in a surge of individuals who want to migrate over there. Just bring their businesses over there as well. So, but sorry, I like it. I've considered moving there. It's one of the schools I'm applying to USF and UT for school. UT, University of Tampa, which is over there. So I'm not opposed to moving over there. It's definitely
interesting.
Yeah.
You've lived in Miami your whole life, minus the time you went to college in Gainesville. What have you noticed lately? Do you notice any trends or anything happening in Miami recently?
I definitely, the biggest thing, which is it's not a not known thing, is definitely just the surplus when it comes to just like the city's adapting a lot to like its crypto foundation.
Yeah.
The mayor's definitely trying to make this place like it's like the capital for the United States for when it comes to the crypto.
Yeah.
So everything around here just follows based on that. I've also seen like maybe it's always been here, but maybe now I'm just seeing it's a big music trend going on down here. Just a lot of DJs, a lot of like just mini festivals going on, especially in those areas, which is very big. I think like one bad trend that I noticed since I moved back would just be like a little bit loss of like its original people, like the Miami natives. Just when I go out now and like I meet new people, like I've noticed it's a surplus of individuals who moved down here from New York, from Chicago, from just a lot of northern states. And also just with that, sometimes businesses come down here too, and then the land here is just it's a gold mine for individuals who want to bring their businesses here and just hopefully like build upon it. So that's causing just the local businesses to be pushed towards the west side, away from that brick old Midtown area, and it's kind of pushing those people out, and it's making the people who my Miami natives, my Floridians who do live here, it's making it hard for them to live here in general. So they're either completely picking up and moving away from Miami. Sometimes some even moving away from Florida as a whole. So it kind of gets me sad because I've lived here my whole life, and like I mentioned before, what I like most about the city is the culture and the different people that you meet. So just to see, it's been a huge trend lately that most of those are starting to move away, and I'm like, being rid of that. It's kind of hard sometimes. It's good because I want to see my city prosper.
Yeah.
But it's bad because I don't want to see the people that made the city for what it is just be left in the dust and have to ultimately move away from the city that they grew up in.
Yeah.
So
that's I'm having more and more conversations like this with people where, like say I met someone in Boise, Idaho, lived there his entire life. Then during the pandemic, like California people just moved right in, and he was at a point where he's looking to now like buy a house, and now the cost of buying a house is like 2 to 3 times more than what it would have been. Because with like now the ability to like work anywhere and remotely, you're seeing people. When I was in Miami, I talked to people that like a whole bunch of New York people have moved down to Miami, and in California moving to places, and then the nature of that, where people who have lived in those places now, things are changing. But it's good to have more people, and then at the same time, it's like, how do we keep the culture that we've built this whole time, right?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with individuals coming over here, because obviously now you have a different set of culture that comes down here. But what your friend was saying is true. For example, I as well have been trying to look. I've been in the market to look for a house. I want to get my own house. I currently live with my parents just because it touches upon that. With people coming in, and an example I could give you is like individuals from New York who have higher salaries than individuals here in Florida, but they come over here and work remotely. Kind of just it's just essentially just making it not affordable for individuals to live here. So a house that I was looking into, now it costs like close to $600,000. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was $300,000, like a regular 3-2. So it's making it, or at least the locals, kind of harder. But then it kind of just touches back to the whole culture thing. Part of our culture is most of us came here to build a better life. We come from parents who came here to better life. So we've learned to fight. We've learned to stand our ground and just find means to go about that, even with tough challenges. But it like I said, it is kind of hard, especially just because you more so see it being affected like in the Brickell Wynwood area. Because had you come and visit Miami 5-6 years ago, Wynwood wasn't the way it was at all now. Sylvester wasn't a place where we met. The design district is super new. It's about 3 years old, if my memory serves me right. But that place used to be Midtown area, used to be bigger. It was a bigger Little Haiti area. So a lot of the places I've seen near the design district where they're being bought off, there used to be local spots there that I used to love going back to eat back in the day. So now I don't get that. I don't get that anymore. But at the same time, there's these developments and so forth. They do bring jobs for the locals, individuals that could help them out. Because when necessarily wasn't the highest, it was a very low poverty, low income area. So it also is helping the locals in a way, but it's kind of you're kind of giving and take at the same time. So
yeah, it's certainly true. I noticed in Miami, like all the construction, like there's a ton of construction. So let's see. So there's this like this metric of how healthy a city is doing based on the number of cranes that they have that you can see in the skyline.
I didn't know that.
I've always kept that in mind. And so when I'm in different places, I notice the cranes, and there's a lot of cranes in Miami, a lot of just like building everywhere. Now, my opinion, because I'm very interested in like urban planning and stuff. And what I love about Chicago so much is that we're always building new housing.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps the cost of living down, because with more housing, there's just more options. So that the cost is down a little bit. Whereas like a friend of mine just moved to Brooklyn, and she waited for 4 months. She couldn't find a spot. Like cities become that don't like build a lot. They become boutique cities, and they like regular people can't live there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So what you see, I think, in New York is that, like Manhattan, there's so many restrictions with building. They're now extending it out to, say, Brooklyn. And so now when you're flying into New York and you look down, you can see skyscrapers in Brooklyn. So it looks like in the future, New York is just going to be all these bureaus will have like downtown areas with skyscrapers.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it's so hard to like build housing elsewhere. So with like more housing, it becomes more affordable.
Yeah.
Because like I'm in an old high rise, but I wouldn't be able to afford this if it was like brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So like by building, say, a brand new high rise next to me, or not necessarily next to me, but like in neighborhoods close by, people can choose to live there. And then the price here goes down because it's not new. Mm-hmm. And like all of that, all those dynamics. And I'm very curious about Miami. My knock on Miami is it's like the way it's laid out is like it's like you can build and you can build like wherever you want. It feels like there's like a lack of cohesion in the the design.
So let's touch base on what you said. So earlier you said there's a lot of construction.
Yeah.
So there's this. So the main highway that you probably took a lot of times, like where you Ubered, was I-95, right? There's along with I-95 and this other highway on the other side by where I live. It's called the Palmetto Expressway. I promise you, since I was 11 or 10, I have not even since I was 11 and 10, maybe, or going even further back, like 7 or 8. There's always been construction there, and it feels like it's never finished. It feels like sometimes like it looks like they're starting a project, and then midway they're like, oh wait, maybe we could do this better, and then stop that project and further expand on that project. There's just always some sort of construction. Construction's been there since I was in elementary school. Like it's just continued on. Even when I left and came back after 5 years, I kid you not, it just looked like they had paused for 5 years and then decided to start back again. It's never ending. So it's just like, and it sucks because it affects the traffic sometimes because you'll get these lane closures at nighttime too. Yeah. And so you start to think, and then you start to think, I'm just like, where is this actually going? Like at this point, like who is planning this? Who's in charge of this? Because it just doesn't make any sense anymore. When it comes to developing that you said earlier, like you said, you notice there's a lot of cranes. There's just a lot of buildings going up.
Yeah.
Everywhere. They're actually building around the arena. They have this plot of land. They're building, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, it's called the Warford. I don't know if but it's supposed to be the tallest building south of New York. It's 100 stories.
So this is, so I noticed, I spent a lot of time in the downtown area by like the museums, and the FTX arena is over there as well. The Perez, and then Frost Science Museum. And there's like that whole area. It looks like they're building something big, or they're about to. Is that what you're referring to, that area?
It should be. So when we first followed each other, I noticed you posted something about this building that has like the weird structures where it just
yeah.
So I wanted to make it. It's called that building's called the Scorpion Building. So in that area, there about 4 or 5 plots down is where they're building that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a hotel / residence. So, but that's kind of the touch upon the place. Like so many buildings are going up, and you see them everywhere. Even if it's just high rises, mid rises, whatever it may be. But the cost of living is still exponentially going up. I have friends who are now looking for new leases, or leaving the Brickell area, or leave like even the outskirts of Brickell area, which is usually cheaper, and they're just trying to find somewhere new. My buddy's rent got raised by $600. I have another one, same scenario, $400. Yeah, you don't, even after living there for so long, you still don't get grandfathered in, which is fine. But how you mentioned like where you live, and then if they build something new, it keeps the prices of yours at a manageable rate.
Yeah.
seen a lot of that either. And with that, it causes a ripple effect. So now when you go out west towards the area where I live, you have individuals just renting out their homes for like close to like
this. Okay, this is the dynamic I was thinking a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
When you're like at night, when you're looking at these big buildings, the lights in them, are a lot of them dark, or do they have lights on?
Oh, I wish I could say. Later, I would try to find this photo for you where we actually spoke about this. Me and my friends, as we were walking through Brickell in general. So when you look up, or if you're in a high vantage point, if you look at most of the buildings, it's very scattered. It's not like right. I would assume in other places where just like most buildings are on, or like most of the windows are on and stuff. But it's very scattered sometimes. And even from a far away view, you can sometimes tell some buildings look like they're completely dark. Others look like they're very lit up. But it's just like it's not like a very consistent pattern. So I guess I would say not a lot of there's a lot of vacant rooms in that sense.
So I think the dynamic that Miami has that Chicago doesn't, when we're talking about the cost of living not going down because of new construction,
mm-hmm.
I think because of Miami's location and just like it being this like international vacation fun city, it brings in a lot of money and homeowners, either like internationally or like people just like investing or just having a place. Whereas like in Chicago, no one is like, few people are probably buying property in Chicago just so they can like have it or sit on it and like vacation there if they want. It's not like a destination vacation city.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably like this influx of people owning property there that don't actually live there.
Yeah.
And that's why you would see the dark in the buildings, right?
I agree with that 100%. Some of the places that my friends live at, like they're condos. And one specifically, I have a friend who lives in a condo and the owner is from Mexico. And this other condo, the owner is from Colombia. So they're not even people that live here. So during quarantine, it was also a big thing that happened. A lot of people from the north started moving over here and they were investing into property and just buying houses and stuff like that and just renting it out in the times that you can't do that. Like obviously the American dream is to own your own house and just rent it out. Not rent it out, but own your own house, and eventually people learn to like further just build upon that. But with that, it's very hard to own a house here sometimes because of that reason. Just because you have all these individuals that come from elsewhere who have more money than the individuals around here, and they buy up everything. And then essentially at that point, it's just not. It doesn't leave room for anything to be owned, just things to be rented. Like you rent it out instead of you buying it. So then you get like all these vacant places that sometimes just you notice it, and just people don't live in, or they're just in and out, Airbnbs, whatever it may be.
What do you think? You mentioned like owning a house as like the American dream. Like what do you see the American dream as?
So like I've always seen it that way. My American dream is different than my parents' American dream. My parents' American dream was to come here and help provide like a better life for myself, which I've been blessed enough to like receive almost like all the help I could.
Mm-hmm.
My parents taught me how to fight from an early age, like in the sense like work hard for everything, and they've helped me out through everything that they basically get what they couldn't get in their respective country. For an American dream for me would just basically do what they did with my kids, and but on a higher level, like own my own house, own various properties, put my kid through school, just have good enough living where essentially it becomes a trend in our family where they just strive to provide even better and give their kids things that they personally couldn't get as they were growing up.
So it's like a generational rise in standard of living.
Mm-hmm. Big on that, because I sometimes compare my living to like the individuals I'm friend with. Like there's things that they were able to do like growing up that I like me and my parents could never do. For example, vacationing. Like my friends would go away to Punta Cana, like DR, or just go snowboarding, skiing and so forth, go visit another city. My parents have never left Florida. And as growing up, my parents and we couldn't take those days off to go work. I mean, to go vacation.
Yeah.
So I would say that's just like a nice little example. Like it wasn't really in our favor to give up days of working because then that's just money we lose, money that we needed to continuously survive here.
Yeah.
Growing up, just being a first generation family here and just figuring it out. For my kids, I want them to feel like, hey, like at any given point, hey, we should all take a family trip, things like that. That's not necessarily that my family dynamic growing up was horrible. I loved it. And we would take our small vacations, like local spots and stuff like that. Like just do things.
Yeah.
And things like that. And or like me own a house. But own a house obviously better than the one I currently live in, as much as I love this house. It's my humble abode. I love this place. Probably never gonna sell this. This is like family history at this point. But things like that. Like, or like for another thing, it's just my kids not necessarily feel the huge struggle of like going to school and like the process that came to it. Because I had to figure that out all on my own. My parents didn't go to school. My parents only have a second to third grade level education. Most of their time in Honduras was just spent. My family's cattle ranchers in Honduras and agricultural farmers as well. So they did that, and then for most of their life until they decided to come back over here. So my American dream is just like I said, building a generational, like having this generational wealth increase in our family.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it seems like there's like two ideas in there where you're talking about like generational wealth and increased standard of living and providing for family. This increased standard of living, but we're also like tying this idea of that to like a physical or material thing, like a house. Are they together or are they like separate in ideas? Like I feel like after World War II, this like consumer idea of like moving out to the suburbs, having a house and a yard and your kids to grow up, that became like the American dream. Whereas like, I don't know if the American dream had always been that way. It was more so like what else you were talking about, that like generational wealth and standard of living, but not like specific as in a house in a way. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand. So I guess like maybe I explained it in a sense like where I was using just material objects to just kind of like piggyback, like support it, but it's more so just like it reflects back to what I said earlier when my parents came back so I could have a better life. Maybe I'm comparing the idea of just having a house and having a better house because for them, if you were to take a glimpse of like the way they used to live, like very, very poor plumbing, a house that's you fit talking about 10 kids and like a 1-to-1 like little shack essentially on this just giant plot of land. It's just more so just comfortable living, like things that we just didn't.
It's more symbolic. It's like
it's just to give like, and it's just to never be like never be never forget the sacrifices and like the things that they went through, so we can strive to just have more than what they ever could have obtained. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not like I don't like I use material things just because that's one of the big things we just didn't have in my family. But then for me it's just like I like now having those things. Yes, I want to continue the idea of that, just like having things on a higher level, just like a nicer house, whatever it may be, like a nice humble boat. But when I mentioned like the family vacation idea, it was just more so spending more like time together, just like further emphasizing the fact, and further emphasizing the fact that like the whole reason why my parents did it in the first place was for the love of the family, just to give their children a better life than what they've received. And that's as a whole. Like anything from being able to afford like a nice dinner with each other and spend quality time with each other, share experiences and so forth like that. So my American dream is always that, like the idea of becoming a father and taking my kid to practice and stuff like that. That's great to me. Those were the few moments that like I will always remember from my childhood. Just dad picking me up from practice and stuff like that. Him and I going to just on local errands and stuff like that. Like that's American dream for me, is just continuously to build my level of comfort, so then I have that time to then spend with my family and so forth.
Because time,
time is the big thing, because comparing it to growing up, you remember, like I mentioned before, we couldn't, my parents necessarily couldn't give up one day of work or things like that. Like it just wasn't in our best interest. So you're talking about like with that, they're tired at the end of the day. All they want to do is rest. So then we can't do the small. Then we couldn't do the small things. As time went on, and like my father moved up with what he did, and my mother was able to save up more money and just moved up in what she did. Then obviously now there's more time for us to hang out and stuff like that. So I want to keep the level of comfortability very high, in the sense of like just financially and like the pressure that we may face, just completely not have it be such a huge factor as to why I can't spend time with my family and make these long lasting memories, and just along with generational wealth, just the wealth of like family wealth, in the sense of keeping that compassion and that care that we have for each other at an all-time high.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So yeah, I love that.
Especially coming from like a big family like I do. To give you like an idea of it, like on my grandma's side of the family, talking about it's 15 kids, 15 individuals that my grandma had. So then each individual, each one of my aunts and uncles has no less than 4 children. So my family's already pretty big.
Yeah.
It's very similar on my mom's side of the family. So at any point, like whenever there's family reunions and stuff, we all going through the same thing, but just having big families and like knowing that we have like you have someone there at all times and stuff like that. That's like something you always want to keep going. Yeah. You always want to maintain those interactions and maintain those bonds, because at the end of the day, family is everything, at least in my life. Like it's what's been the drive for my success, and for why I've worked so hard for the things I've gotten in my life, and why I will continue to work very hard. So
how many siblings do you have?
I am the youngest of 4. So I have an older sister. Her name is Jamie. She lives in New York.
Okay.
I have a second sister. Her name is Anna. She lives in Virginia now. And then I have my brother. His name is Joseph. He lives in Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Switching gears a little bit. Gears F1. You were at this F1 event in Miami. Mm-hmm. When I told people I was going down to Miami here in Chicago, they were asking me if I was going to go to the F1 event or see the F1 event, or they were asking me about it. It seems like the internet has allowed the opportunity for people to be interested in things that aren't necessarily have been mainstream popular. And we're seeing this rise in interest in Formula One racing, and to the point where you're at this event. Can you share with me what that experience was like and how that came about, and your takeaways from it? Okay.
So what you said is actually very correct. I actually had no interest in Formula One racing, like prior to like hearing about that it's coming here and so forth. I just thought it's a big event. Like, you can think about it as like, for example, like the Super Bowl coming to your city. Like, obviously, whether you're a fan or not of football or whether you're a fan of the teams playing, like going to a big event like that, it's just memorable. So that's kind of the way I saw it. I like the idea of like fast cars. Like who doesn't, like realistically speaking, who doesn't like the idea of loud motors and fast cars?
Yeah.
But it felt great knowing it was happening in my city, because normally you're talking about this is a sport that happens predominantly overseas. You're talking about in Europe, Middle East, and so forth. So obviously a lot of people don't really know much about it, because most of the times when the race do happen, they're overnight, and they only cut, and the coverage happens very early morning here in America. So then now you have it coming over to Miami, and then you have it coming over to Miami. And if I'm not mistaken, this is either the first time that a Grand Prix is taking place in the United States, and it's just opening up the floodgates, because now next year they're doing it in Las Vegas, and then they're eventually going to do it in Texas. So it gauged my interest. So I tried to learn about it. I was just like, hey, it's something new. Like it's, I think it kind of just piggybacked on the fact that like prior to that, I had been going to a lot of like sporting events before. Like I had gone to see for the first time our new local soccer team. I had seen the Miami Heat and play. And then recently I had just gone to a Marlins game. So I was just like, you know what, let's keep the trend going. The way I like the idea. I like the idea of it, but obviously I couldn't afford going. So the tickets are absurd, completely absurd. Like you're talking about like base pay. We're starting at 900, and as it kept going, depending on the seats, I saw tickets close to like $13,000. It was absurd. So you're talking about this event mostly was hosted by individuals that didn't even necessarily live in Miami. Right. People that came down from Jupiter, from Boca, from West Palm Beach, like more north from here. But I was blessed to have like a friend who, a wonderful individual. I've known her since Gainesville, since I went to US, and she happened to have an extra ticket. And luckily, and when she offered me the ticket, I saw it as a way of, like any normal person would have not said no. So I took the chance, and I got to go see the event. But obviously going to an event, I don't want to just sit there and like not understand. So I did my research, and I tried to better understand how it worked back. And it's honestly like I didn't realize it was like a 3-day event at first. Like you have
I didn't even know it was a 3-day event.
So it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Friday, like it's a 3-day event. So Friday is just like practice runs and like just overall just seeing the cars run and them getting a feel to the track and so forth. Saturday, which is the day I went, was qualifiers. So each, and it's I want to say it's 20 drivers, 10 teams, 20 drivers. If I'm not correct, I would have to might have to double check that. I can't remember. But each team has two racers, and the qualifiers, they run 3 qualifyings, and you have a certain amount of time in each one of the qualifyings, and based on what your time is on each one of those runs determines if you're qualified to get into the main race, which is on Sunday, and what position you start off and so forth. And then Sunday you have your main race, which was this year. It was won by a Max Verstappen, which is he runs for Red Bull. And actually the hat I'm wearing right now, I bought over there. So it's a Lewis Hamilton.
So where is the race?
The race is so that's also why it was pretty big, because the race was hosted at the Hard Rock Stadium, and the Hard Rock Stadium is the home of the Miami Dolphins. But if you go out there, the Hard Rock Stadium is actually north. It's 15 minutes north of me. So my gym is actually located across the stadium, like one of the plazas across. So this was when I first like started hearing about it, because I noticed like as I drove around the stadium to like the local bank that I usually go to, and I noticed there's just all these bleachers put up, and I'm just like wondering what's going on. I'm thinking it's like I'm thinking, okay, it can't be Rolling Loud, because that Rolling Loud is this music event that used to happen there, but happens in the same place where Ultra takes place in Bayfront Park, right by FTX Arena and all that. So I'm like, what is this? And then I dabble on it, I dabble on the internet a little bit for trying to figure out what this means. And I see it's an F1, so it starts gauging my interest. And then eventually people just start talking about it a lot. Like my buddy's company was part of the construction company that helped build the roads. So that he starts talking about it, and they start talking about tickets. And then it's this whole thing of just like the internet is just like hyping it up, because again, when big things happen in your city, like it's just you hear about it consistently,
right?
And especially because it was announced so far ahead. Obviously, it just gained that traction. But then like once people started hearing about like potentially going and like how much tickets are, and just now people start getting an interest in it. A lot of my friends say that when I asked them, when they asked me like, oh, if I knew anything, or how I was going or why I was going, someone would say, oh, he just watched the Netflix show. I'm like, Netflix show. So I look into it, and there's a four season show on Netflix. So I think possibly the individuals who did go from Miami, they just started watching that to get a better understanding of it. And I'm sure people knew who Lewis Hamilton was before then. Like I knew who he was. I always knew him as the Formula One racer, and like I always knew him as an individual who just was pretty badass at his sport. Like it's just like how Tiger Woods used to be good at his sport, or Tom Brady at football, things like that. So just the chance to go, I was just like, why not? Like it's the first time it's gonna happen for the next 10 years. And if I can afford to go later, then yes, I will go. But if I'm capable of going now, and especially I'm gonna go with a friend of mine and their parents who I just already been to different events with, like it's nice to see, like it's nice to be part of history in a sense, because you grow up around the stadium, you've been to the stadium for football games and soccer games, and now you see it for a whole new event that could ultimately just change the course of just how your city functions and like your area functions. And it's just, might as well be a part of it. If you get the chance to go, why not? Like there I got to meet a whole lot of new people, and I got to like actually see these cars up close and personal. And it's a cool sport. It honestly is. It's very loud. So
I could imagine.
Very, very loud. So, and then I learned it's not even just the Formula One races. Then you have there's another division where it's just Porsches. So it's just a bunch of 911 couriers just racing around. And then so it's kind of sick. Honestly, I had a good time. It was very fun.
Yeah, that sounds
very
great.
very like, and then obviously whoever was designing it, like just put their like Miami touch on it. Like they had like a beach club, which was cool. So, a couple performers there. So just Post Malone, Zed, and then the funniest thing I saw was on a major turn, they have this yacht marina, which is just they lifted yachts and they lifted the yachts, and then underneath them they put like this fake like ceramic water looking thing. So from an area view it looks like something on water, but like then you see people walking on it, and it's just like okay, it's kind of cringy. Like it's like, okay, you're kind of doing too much. You're trying to do a little, but it's overall it was a nice vibe. I liked it.
Wow. Yeah, there's so much that goes into like organizing those huge events.
Yeah, it's like what also made it cool is like on the website leading up to it, they had like a slideshow of like every week the progress of like the track and like building on it. So it kind of kept building on the effect. And like we were announcing it, and our mayor, he's only been kind of like he's been on his A game lately, just with things to just promote the city and so forth. So
I'm hearing a lot about your mayor.
Yeah, he's a very outspoken dude. Like he's just how do I say this? He's in Spanish. Spanish is a phrase, "Ponte las pilas," meaning like it means put on your batteries, but it also means like that literal meaning, it means put on your batteries, but it means like just get on your shit. Excuse my language, but he's been doing that. He's just
So how to say that again?
Ponte las pilas.
Ponte las vidas.
Pilas.
Pilas.
Las.
Ponte.
Ponte. Ponte. Las.
Bilas.
Pilas, Pilas. So it's a literal translate means put on your batteries, but ponte las pilas is like a very, very
Let's
like
go.
big, yeah, like just go, like get on your shit, like get on it.
Yeah.
It's a very big Hispanic phrase. Like it's a lot like parents will say to you, like ponte las pilas in school, ponte las pilas en esto, like all that, like get on your shit.
Pointa. Am I saying that right? Pointa?
Ponte.
Ponte. Ponte las pilas.
Perfect. That's perfect. Oh,
Yeah.
you belong in Miami now. Look at that. Yeah.
Las
But
pilas.
definitely was a good event. Great event, honestly.
All right. Well, we're kind of wrapping up close for time. Why don't we do these rapid fire?
Okay.
Okay. Who are 3 musical artists in your heavy rotation right now?
Heavy rotation. So I definitely I have Future on there. Just been a big Future fan my whole life.
Okay.
Post Malone, definitely. I've been big on Post Malone for like the last since Stoney came out.
Okay.
Really like his music. I really like, despite like like the way he looks, like his voice is dope. Like I like the melodies that he.
What about his music do you enjoy most?
It just always puts me in like a very good mood, and like one of my favorite songs is called Patient, and it's just the whole song is just basically just being patient with just general things that just come at you. I love it. I just, it just gets me over on a good mood. It's just always been that. Future gets me very hyped in a sense.
Yeah.
His lyrics not necessarily like the best, like most meaningful things in the world, but he just gets me hyped.
Okay.
And my third one would definitely be Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny.
Yeah. So I'll probably say this for the first time ever. I can't, like, everyone honestly like they love the man. They hype him up every time an album comes out. Even if they listen to it, they're like, "Oh, it's fire! It's the greatest thing of all time." Like no matter what, like you'll see them here. People will screenshot it and post it, put a fire emoji. Hasn't even heard like one song.
Yeah.
But I'll say for the first time ever. I do like his music. I like his music a lot. I respect the man very much just because like he's basically like, I like in a sense of how much he's done. He is like, there's another big Spanish artist called Daddy Yankee, which I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, he's a man, but he's like the Daddy Yankee.
He was like the pioneer of really like reggaeton, or at least bringing it to where like I'm listening to it or have heard the genre. Yeah.
What Daddy Yankee was to the individuals growing up with him, like in like the 90s, like early 2000s, and all that, Bad Bunny is to us. So
he's taking it to like a whole another level.
He's like, his music is super like, he just tries to represent everything he like's grown up with and like the way he feels, and he's very expressive with just, and it's not only in his music, it's just the way he is outside. Because if you've seen the way he is, he's just a very expressive individual.
He's a character.
Like it just gives it's like it gives like a hope to, like, not a hope, but it inspires other like us Latin individuals just growing up and all that. It's just someone to look up to. So I really like him for that. And his music, and it just also helps that his music is just is gas. It's bomb. So, honestly,
it is really good. It is really good.
Like even my friends up in I have a buddy up in University of Wisconsin Law right now. He's just always just listening to just different like Spanish songs, especially Bad Bunny.
I gotta share with you my reggaeton playlist.
Oh, dude, yeah, hit me with it. I would love to see that.
I'll share it with you after this.
Go for it.
Nice. Okay. Another rapid fire here. Who or what are 3 things that have influenced your outlook on life, whether it's historic, famous people, or books, films, other art mediums?
So, I guess in a book sense, I'll give you one of each. I'll give you a film, a book, and a person. So, starting with a book. So, in the whole process lately, I've just applying for my schools and like personal statements and having to write that. leading up to that, like I made a goal to like start reading more in general. And I recently read a book called Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Okay. I've seen that. Yeah.
So usually when books like that come out, like they're very overhyped, and I'm the kind of person that doesn't necessarily with anything in general, like whether it's music, TV shows, or just whatever. Maybe when people are overhyping it, I don't like to fall into that. Like I'll wait till it dies down, and I'll give my own take.
Yeah.
But once I read the book, it actually just put a lot of like the things into perspective in my life. And if you haven't read the book, just essentially to give you like a brief green light, essentially just the title of the book, essentially is a phrase that he's used for the green lights in life, like the opportunities you have to seize, and like the things
like go green. It's a green light, go.
Like the green light, or like it's a green light, like it's like this happened to you, so it's a green light, meaning it's a good thing that happened. It's just he's comparing it's just more so explaining his like whole life, and like where he knew where the red lights were, like where things like he did and just didn't amount and anything, or just weren't the path he was supposed to get, or the green lights that he did that led him to be the individual that he is today. And I respect Matthew McConaughey a lot, because he's just very like, he's always been a very big family man. He's just very well spoken. He understands. He has a good head on his shoulders. It's like you're very I don't know. He's like you're very traditional, like good moral man. So reading the book, it actually made me like. There's portions of it where he talks about like his acting career and like the early on days where he's just like, he explains like just different scenarios where had he not just decided to go about it his own way instead of the way people were trying to like shape him into doing, probably would have not been the actor and like the individual he is today. So I kind of put it in perspective when I was trying to just do my things, like make my personal statement and all that, where I was trying to figure out like the things I've done in my past life, or not my past life, like in the past where I may have regretted it, but I can't take away from the fact that it made me to be the person I am today, and I love the person I am today. And I'm probably, and like obviously there's always room for improvement, but it made me look at that. So the book really just hit home, and it just talked about like his whole family dynamic, and I loved it because I don't know, like I said, I'm a big family guy in the first part, but I love being able to reflect on things I've done or things I haven't done, and not necessarily regretting them all the time, but just more so understanding where, like how that got me to where I am now, and just using that as a, like, okay, like now moving forward, like I'm this person. So what's going to be better for myself? Like what's the better route? Film wise, it's not necessarily like a big like life changer, but I do like my favorite movie of all time is Interstellar, which
people keep telling me about Interstellar.
So I do like Interstellar. It has Matthew McConaughey in it, which also is the reason it led me to read his book.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the movie Interstellar, have you seen it? If you have not,
no, it's on my, like, I don't see a lot of films, but that one keeps coming up that people are saying. Yeah.
So I've made it a habit to like try to watch a movie a day.
Oh, wow.
Because I like to I'll do it like on my downtime, like when I'm eating, or just taking a break and stuff like that. I do like Interstellar. Yeah. It kind of touches base to like that side of me that not a lot of people like perceive me to be. Most individuals like they don't know that I'm really big into like sci-fi, that I like just anything that has to do with like space exploration or anything scientific, whatever it may be. That's my favorite genre. But I like Interstellar just because it gives like a real world picture of just what future Earth could be like, and like the way people will go about it. But the overarching thing is just like, it kind of just ties back to the whole idea of just like value what you have at the moment, because in an instant you can honestly lose it, and you can get rid of it, and not get rid of it, but like it could just be taken away from you.
Yeah.
So I like it, but it also puts in like in a very like just outer space, like like presence. So it's also pretty cool to look at. I highly suggest. It's a long film. It's like almost like a 3-hour film.
Okay.
I've seen the movie like about 14 times. So
wow.
Yeah, I love the movie.
Okay.
And then a figure, I'd honestly as common as this answer may be, I do look up entirely to my father. My father came over here when he was 22, and since then he's done nothing but work. He went from working at a local factory where he made jeans and he got paid $6.25 an hour to now he's an assistant manager at a very big roofing supply distribution company, and he also does roofing projects on the side. My father is a very, very straightforward man. He taught me everything I needed to know from a young age, just what it was to be a man, what it was to the idea of earning respect means you have to give it out. Like the respect you receive is the respect you give. Just an overall family man. Like he always put his family before himself. Was even him being just like the middle child, I believe he's looked at in my family as just like the go-to person whenever like family emergencies happen or like bad situations may occur.
Yeah.
Just I always look up to that because now being part of this big family, like I want to be in that position. I want that my younger cousins and like my cousins of my generation to like come up to me whenever they feel like they have like some sort of issue that they can't talk to their parents about, or like now that they're growing up and they need like help, just even the tiniest things like, oh, just hey, I need help moving this, or hey, can you help me figure out what's wrong with my car, things like that. So
yeah,
I admire the fact that like with as a parent as his own problems may be, he still puts those on hold to just make sure like the ones that he loves and cares for are situated or are in a good situation, because he's explaining to me that he's always been the kind of person that he knows how to get himself out of his own situations, but just extending the help to others sometimes assists him in figuring out his own problems as well. And that's been good. And I've done that something similar like that recently, just more so with now being one of the few that's gone to college and gone to college degree and like graduated from high school in my family. Now my younger cousins come up to me and like I make sure to have like, I'm talking about like I'm 24 and they're like 12, 10, like 13, like they're just starting to basically just live find themselves, live their own life out of respect from what they used to just be handed to by their parents. So it's nice to get like a FaceTime or like a call, and just like them asking me like, what should the next approach be? Because then that makes me feel good, because it goes back to what I said about the whole first generation, me trying to figure everything out, but now I'm able to help them. And then another big thing is just like my dad and he taught me to like embrace every like everything that is a part of me. And one thing that comes with that is this mental health, my mental struggles. So me being someone who's very open about it and very understanding compared to like a very traditional family, like the era that my father came from, because as evident as my father had his mental struggles, he just didn't have the time or just didn't have the effort to deal with them, because it was made apparent that there was something bigger afoot, in sense like taking care of his family and so forth. So for me now, it gives me the ability like just to help out my younger cousins and like anyone else in my family who has those struggles. So I make it like a safe space for them to come talk to me, because it's been made evident that sometimes talking to your parent coming from a first generation family is very hard, because it's something that is either not accepted or not understood. So
I could see that.
I respect my father a lot for that. He's just taught me to always look out for your loved ones and always like make sure that at the end of the day, like they're doing well, because it promotes good wellness in myself, but never to lose sight of the fact that like you are your own person at the end of the day, and you can't spread yourself thin if you're not doing well yourself. So
that's a great answer.
Thanks.
It's a great answer. And one last question for you. What's something you're curious about recently?
Curious. Is it just like a general thing, like
It could be anything.
anything? Honestly, I've been very curious. So the two things that pop into mind, I just recently that came up to. So I do like topics like conspiracy topics and so forth. Have you heard about the Russian sleep experiment?
The Russian sleep experiment?
Mhm.
Okay, what is that?
So the Russian sleep experiment deals with it deals with back in I believe it was the 1940s. There was these Russian scientists who basically had these prisoners who they performed this gas test on, because back in the day we had like USA, the Nazis, like during war, they would provide their soldiers with like these sort of sleep inhibitors to keep their soldiers awake, because when you're on the battlefield, if you fall asleep, your enemy can essentially creep up on you. So the Russian sleep experiment deals with that, but it's kind of like the Stanford experiment, where it went completely.
Okay, yeah.
So it's something like the prisoners just outright like went into full stages of psychosis, where they just ultimately like were just completely lost their minds, and just tore themselves apart, and like they had huge change in like physical appearance. So that comes to mind because I was literally talking about this the other day, and I was talking about this yesterday with a friend. And then the other one touches into my sci-fi like thing, was, you know how at one point everyone was like obsessed with like finding Area 51, or like they're used
yeah.
brother. So someone came up to me and told me, it's like, what if Area 51 is actually the exit? So meaning that what we're in right now, or what we're experiencing, is actually what is being held inside and all that. So it's just like, yeah, my mind likes to drift into like all these random thoughts.
We don't know. We don't know unless we knew. Or like,
So it's just things like I'm always the kind of person, I just ponder like just things like that. Or it's just like, what if like, or just like how the pyramids were built, because if you do the physics on that, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you take it with our infrastructure today and like our capabilities, with just 1 centimeter off, it would just completely ruin the whole project. So how were they able to do that back in the day?
The pyramids have been around for such a long time.
And if you dig into the architecture, if you're able to do that, you'd understand like it took like very fine precision like measurements to stand still the way it did now. So with people who individuals back then who just didn't have the mathematical skills that we did, or equipment. So it's small things like that.
Wild. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks again for coming on.
Of course, bro. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. Honestly, really good way to like step out of my. I've never done a podcast, and I really love just this whole interaction. Helped me just honestly. I've been super excited about it. So thank you. 100%.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.